This is synchronicity.
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 Welcome to Synchronicity. My guest this week is Michael Donovan, his return visit. We're going through the old favorites here, going through the hits. Michael got back in town into New York. I was in New York a couple of weeks ago, and we got to link up, which is always nice to see Michael. If you're not familiar with Michael Donovan, his photography, his art is incredible. It's, fashion photography, the type of photography he does for his art. And I don't really say this to Michael directly too often, so I'm sure he'll appreciate hearing it in some capacity. But what he does is really an art form. And the longer and the more I view his work, the more I appreciate his aesthetic and really just his talent and skill in terms of executing. And the stories behind a lot of his projects are equally as fascinating, which if you listen to the John Simon podcast, John F. Simon, that episode for me really kind of got to the root of the process and the story behind any art project or any creative work being equally valid, if not more engaging for people actually witnessing the creative project. So yeah, Michael's really amazing at what he does, and this episode's pretty interesting. You'll hear at the beginning we deal with some topics of depression that Michael was experiencing. It gets pretty heavy right from the beginning, but it's also pretty light because things can go pretty quickly in one direction or another with Michael. And it was really it's a great conversation. We deal with a lot of stuff though in this. It's lighthearted but deep and sometimes kind of dark, which is, I think, a reflection of where Michael is at right now, which is cool because he's kind of riding that wave in an interesting way. So before we get to the episode, I want to talk about something, and I haven't done this. Man, when's my last rant been? I don't know. Episode months ago, if not a year ago. But and no name shall be named. I'm not going to. This is not a flame war for anything. Now I've piqued your interest, I'm sure. But I want to talk about something that I've been noticing, going on for at least, 3 or 4 or 5 years, probably longer. I've noticed it. But I was entrenched in a lot of it, is this idea of spiritual materialism and kind of what's happening now to the scene of I wouldn't call it new age, but, spiritual teachers, many who are incredibly astute, wise, have a lot to communicate, and also, genuinely want to improve the lives of people who find them. On the flip side of that, I've noticed something that to me is kind of like, it's been going on for decades, I'm sure, since the beginning of the Eastern traditions kind of met the Western world, and not even just the Eastern traditions, Western mysticism, occultism, many of these things, are all related in this mode of thinking that certain people develop or are attracted to spiritual scenes because they're the validity at the core of these things, but then use that as a way to kind of exert power or gain power or, insert themselves into something and use it as a tool, whether consciously or unconsciously. And so this is what I refer to as spiritual materialism. And the reason I bring it up is because the more I've been thinking about it, the more I see it, although I try to stay as tuned out as possible from some of these things, it reminds me of kind of what started to happen with the church. And when you're organizing things around certain dogmatic beliefs or doctrine, even if it's fluid, even if the doctrine is there is no doctrine, you can see some type of dogma emerge. And I think we're at the point now in Western culture where we've seen quite a bit of this going on. It's been 50 plus years, 60, 70 years since a lot of these Eastern and more esoteric kind of texts and perspectives have permeated the Western culture, especially in the United States and Europe. So, this is a long period of time for perspectives and kind of motives to emerge in a quote unquote spiritual scene. And so, again, I have come to the opinion, and many of this from personal experience, that most people who find themselves kind of perpetuating a spiritual, materialistic kind of sophistry, pay for wisdom model, in one way or the other, whether explicitly or, via other relationships, have similar qualities to people who I wouldn't engage with as friends. And so that's kind of been where the root and the genesis of my thinking for this has emerged. And I know I'm being somewhat vague, and I know I've spoken to some of you privately about this, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. But my point for bringing it up is this, is when I started my first business, which was an online music magazine, I had a line of thinking. I was young. I was early 20s, mid 20s. And my line of thinking is if we can just get a celebrity or someone famous to extol the virtues of this particular business, that will be an inflection point for the trajectory of this business. And what I refer to that as is completely backwards thinking now. That's not how things work. You want to build something substantial, and it should be built on its own merit, not off the backs of someone else or some other thing. And I think if you can find people who kind of embody those qualities of wanting to build for themselves and doing it for the love of it, not because it's a channel to make money. Not that there's anything wrong with making money. I mean, you've heard me talk about cryptocurrency enough. I'm not against making money in any way, but tying together these two very kind of meaty, resonant areas, which is money and spirituality, or your, the reason for being, or some broader perspective of what life and death and all of the rest of this could mean, you have to tread carefully, because I've seen it happen too many times where, people who are attracted to a particular organization or teacher are viewed as customers by that very organization or teacher. They're not looked at people who are gravitating towards a message. Of course, that can always be held up to say, of course, well, we're spreading this wisdom. I have this perspective. It's not really me. I'm doing this, as dharma or whatever. But obviously, we all know of examples of people who, can use that as kind of a crutch or an excuse. On top of that, we're also seeing a lot of these weird clashes. Not weird, but it seems, very obvious in the Me Too culture, which is a great thing. A lot of these teachers are getting exposed for, sexual impropriety. And that, I don't find surprising, because there are dynamics that can emerge in a teacher-student, higher up hierarchical society, whether it's, within a religious context or not, that those types of dynamics can be exploited by people who can't restrain their shadow side, for lack of a better term. Anyway, the reason just to wrap this all up, and I'm only venting because I've had these thoughts and I figured, I could write something out. I'm probably not going to get it out as effectively, as quickly as I wanted. I could just record it for myself and listen back like a weirdo. But I think the practical benefit of speaking about this on this platform that I have is just be mindful of that when you're doing that. And typically, in my experience, the organizations and the people who come after or surround some entity or teacher who genuinely seems to be doing well, those are the people to just be mindful of. You don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Like, there's no part of me that, disregards an entire wisdom tradition or perspective of a really smart person because, they got some shady people who are involved. Anything would have that. But just to be aware of those things and recognize where you might be fitting in as a cog in the business model, I think is good. I think that can't be a bad thing. So for those of you who know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who don't, just take it as a general reminder. And that is all I will say about that, probably for a very long time. Nothing but love for everyone out there listening to this. So without further ado, let's just get to Michael, Donovan. Maybe I'll have some messages relating business stuff. Patrick Nemchik, you're the best. Let's get to this episode without further ado. Here is Michael Donovan.
I gotta shake out. I gotta wake up.
Michael
I just had
Donovan.
bread.
Me too. I just had a shitload of bread.
Yeah, so I'm like tired now.
Wait, you had bread the restaurant or bread?
Bread.
Like the food.
Food.
Yeah, because there was a restaurant called Bread not too far around here back
Yeah.
in. I don't know if that's still around.
No, I just had some bread and I'm tired and sluggish now.
Well, me too. So we're in the same mind state. I had a shitload of bread from Grand Central Station. That was phenomenal.
Oh, I can't do this anymore, man. I'm trying to cut out breads and sugars,
Why?
and every day I forget.
Why?
Why? Because it causes inflammation. It makes you fat. The two of them go together. It's like so you eat it, it causes inflammation.
But being fat
Then
is
you get depressed,
kind
so
of
then
fun.
you eat more.
But isn't being fat kind of fun?
No, it's not.
Not being fat, but getting fat. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, getting fat, but being fat really isn't fun.
I know they should. I agree with that. I couldn't agree more. I don't like the way I feel when I'm fat, but I do enjoy eating food a lot.
Yeah, I do enjoy eating food.
I do. I really enjoy it. It's something that I have no qualms about eating. It's one of my top pleasures in life, I would say. Like, I thoroughly enjoy eating food. I don't think I could cut out bread, is what I'm saying.
I want to get rid of bread though, because when you don't eat it though, like I was eating some vegan stuff out in LA, and
Vegan's good.
Yeah, and I didn't miss any breads or anything. But then I would eat
Bread is vegan.
Shut up, dude.
I'm just saying.
Shut the fuck up.
Bread is vegan.
You know what I'm saying? No, really like okay. So I'm 40. How old are you right now?
About to be 35.
Okay, so I was the same fucking way when I was 34. You know about why I did one of the reasons I did DMT?
No.
So,
Have you done 5-MeO DMT?
No, I'll ask about that in a second. But I got to tell you this. When I was like 27, 28, 29, something like that, I said, if I wasn't where I want to be with my career, this is when I was like in stand up before I started doing photography or like just transitioning, like around that area. I said, if I'm not going to be where I'm at with my career by the time I'm 35, I'm going to move to an island, do a lot of drugs, and throw my life away.
35.
35. So there I was in Manhattan, an island.
There you
my
go.
My career wasn't where I wanted it to be. So I was offered DMT, and I was like, fuck it. I'm going to throw my life away. And here I am now.
There you go. So not so bad.
So when I was 34, going on 35, I would be the same way. I'd be like, oh, yeah, eat bread, do all this stupid shit.
I like that you put bread in the stupid shit category.
It is stupid shit. It is. It's just like, it's like saying like, I'm going to fucking murder my health, my future self. It really is.
I'm not even arguing.
It caught
with you.
up on me in the past 6 months.
Yeah.
Really bad. Like I think I gained like 20 something pounds while I was out in LA. Probably not, but
From eating bread?
I think from all the bad shit, breads and sugars.
Yeah.
So I have to cut it out, but I'm so addicted
Sugar.
at this point. It's like someone saying, it's my Coke addiction, man.
I know. I know what you're saying. I am not making light of it at all either because I know exactly what you're saying, man. That shit is. It is. I say I can't get rid of it because I can't even imagine it. I went full on vegan for 2 years, and that shit seemed like a walk in the park compared to giving up bread. I can't even fathom the thought. Is that bad? What if you make it at home with yourself, with like your own yeast?
You know what you're doing, man. You know what you're doing to your body. It's just bad. It just turns you doughy. And you know when it really started to hit? Like it's been hitting for a little while, but then I'm staying at this like the world's shittiest Airbnb.
I got that sense, and you're like, let's not do it at my Airbnb.
Oh God, it's so awful, man. It's so awful. And I got to tell you,
What is it? 6,000 a night?
No. I was like, I'm not gonna pay that much, so I got like an inexpensive one, but it's like
You get what you pay
there's
for.
like a 27, 28-year-old stoner kid who they don't clean at all, and then the other roommate, because it's like it's like one of those places where there's people there, and then the other guy is like this like 20-something-year-old kid, and I was like, damn, that kid just fucking jerks off like all day long. His bed's up against my wall. And you just hear this like,
oh, and you know it's just him, and it's
and I've never heard a girl. I've never heard anything, and it's just like fucking stop all day, all night. And then like I walked in the other day, and like one of his buddies was there, and he just looks at me like, whoa, like he got scared, like what's this old man doing here? And I'm like, I don't want to be here either, man. and then so last night, or no, it was this morning, you know, it's just he's rocking again, like all night last night, all day today. And then I walk down the hallway, and then he just pops out of his door, and then I like kind of like glanced over because I was like, his room has to be empty, and there's a fucking girl in there.
Oh, so he's not jerking.
Yeah, but I'm like, dude, she's not making like any like this feels good. It's the worst.
Maybe
sex.
he's like just
terrible.
be quiet. He's like, be quiet. I got a guy on the other side.
It doesn't even matter. It's like she has to like have some kind of pleasure.
I've also that's weird that maybe the walls aren't that thin. It's just that one sound getting through.
No, dude, no, because you can hear people coughing. No, it's
maybe
just
he
terrible.
hired the girl to go in there so it wouldn't seem like he's jerking off to
probably what
you
happened.
for your benefit. It's
And the
possible.
worst part is that kid has a room with no window, so they're like,
that'll fuck with your head, man. That's
Yeah,
like solitary
it will.
confinement. You will go insane. The one time I lived in a room without a window, or it had like a shitty window to an alley, I got depressed. And I'm very rarely depressed, and I got immediately depressed within 3 months. I'm like, oh, life sucks. Everything is bad. Nothing is
Yeah.
good. So,
dude, I just dealt with some massive depression this weekend,
really,
dude. Wait, are we doing this on mine or your podcast?
either one. We can do
Can
mine.
we just put it on both?
Yeah.
Is that cool?
That's fine with
Okay.
me.
Because I don't want to like freak anyone out. Because my last episode, I kind of talked a little bit about it, but it was like so bad. I'm good now. You can tell that I'm fine.
Yeah, you
okay?
seem pretty at
I'm
ease.
normal.
Yeah, normal.
But I was going through,
Yeah.
and my just before I say this, my team. I don't want anybody to worry or anything. My team and I like kind of diagnose it. Sundays I get more depressed because there's like it's like a slow day, and then on Mondays I get really irritating to my team, and they're like, "Oh my god, we don't want to even be near you."
That's why they figured out your patterns.
Well, I figured it out, and I was like, I need to shoot on Sundays, otherwise I'm gonna have depression. Like I'm gonna keep.
So
going through
schedule
this.
stuff for Sundays.
So we're just scheduling like silly shoots on Sundays, like
a
silly
good idea.
Sundays, and
That's
like
a good idea.
yeah. So I was so fucked up, and I'm not embarrassed to say this. I'm a little embarrassed, but I don't want to be scared. It was the first time I Googled the hotline,
Suicide hotline?
and I pulled it up on my phone, and I had it like ready just to hit send.
So you were having suicidal thoughts?
And I've had them before, but this was like the darkest I went, and I think it's like, and I was like, it was dark.
That's
man.
dark, man.
It was fucking dark, and like I was like, I knew that I wasn't gonna do anything, but I was dealing with thoughts that I've never dealt with thoughts before like that. And then as I talked to more friends that experience like harder, like I thought I experienced hard depression.
Probably not if you're okay today. Like
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
It's probably not clinical.
I've always had depression here and there, but then I talked to friends that like are really struggling with it, and they're like, "Oh, I like they pace back and forth, or they can't leave their rooms, or they deal with it for like weeks." Those thoughts, I was like, those thoughts were like the worst thing I've ever experienced in my entire life.
What were the thoughts?
It was just suffocating. I did this editorial based on depression, based
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
person
yeah.
I knew, and Taylor art directed it, and it was like really fucking good.
Yeah, I saw some.
But now I understand like what because she's talked. We talked about depression before, the images like what I was like encouraged to make are really what it felt like. You can't fucking move.
yeah, that's what I've
You
heard.
can't. And I've had depression, but this was on a whole other level.
Yeah, I've
where it's
not
like,
had it that bad. Actually, that's not true. After I was up, very high up for 3 months, very high up, which was insane. That's when I lived in that apartment. That's when I started doing stuff that I didn't want to do. I was taking weed from a roommate without him knowing, just like low down, grimy shit, made me feel bad. I don't think I got out of bed for like 3 or 4 days. And I remember specifically the feeling of having to go out and like get something. I was smoking cigarettes, and I like my legs were like jelly, and I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? Like I haven't moved in so long, like
Yeah.
literally like physically moved. And like, you know, I probably got up to go to the bathroom and shit, but Oh man.
But even that, it's like a daze when you're there. And that's the thing. I realized what it was is I was in this place. I wasn't in my world. I was in somebody else's world.
Yeah.
And I was soaking up their fucking shitty energy.
Maybe the dude jacking off his stuff into you.
Maybe
He's
that's what
that
happened.
sadness, his sad sex ejaculate psychic energy is going into you, and you're like, oh god.
It had to have been, man, because that whole place is depressing. And I was like, we've grown up, so we don't live in shitholes anymore.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden to be
Yeah.
thrown into a shithole.
Oh, it'll
again,
fuck with you.
Yeah. It's like, is this what my life has come to? And people are like, well, why don't you just get another Airbnb? And I'm like, I paid for this shit.
How long are you there till?
The 30th. And then I'm looking at a place on Delancey and Essex. Or,
Is it nicer?
What's that?
It has to be nicer, right?
Oh my God. No, it's going to be my place. Like a buddy and I are talking about moving in together.
Oh, cool.
And, like this.
I like that
like
area.
a larger space, and it has tons of light, and
Awesome.
I can travel easier.
Like
I
a
can
normal-
Airbnb, and someone will be there when I leave.
Yeah, and no roommate jacking off or actually having sex.
I don't know. I got to check with Brad. We'll make sure there's a wall between the two of us.
Yeah, man. Well, depression is a motherfucker. I had Dustin Marshall on here on the second episode, and he's talked about a recent suicide attempt. He didn't call a hotline. He tried to kill himself.
And just to be clear, I knew in the moment I was not close to attempt.
Yeah.
I've thought about it before and everything like that. Was like, if
You just
I'm
wanted to talk to
close,
someone.
I'm being more aware with my depression, and I think everybody should be more aware of their depression when they're in that thought. I actually thought that was like a good move on my half. Like I
Yeah.
was nowhere close to it. Like if you know what I mean, there's like so many layers. That's why I don't want anybody to like freak out or anything or be worried about.
I'm
it.
not
It's like,
that. I'm sitting with you, and I'm not.
This is my
worried
cry
about
for
it.
help, man, and you're ignoring it now.
Huh?
Just kidding.
Well, yeah. This is the cry for. I'll feel like a real asshole after this. No, I mean, I can tell the difference when people. Not that you're not depressed, or I can tell when people really need help. It's a different vibe about people. So you think it was just set in because of circumstance relating to work or general themes?
This is what I think it is.
Yeah.
And this is what I found, because I told you I wanted to talk anyway. Like,
Yeah.
Because the trip to LA, and for the audiences, I've been living here for 10 years, and then this is my longest I've been away.
Extended
from New York.
trip.
3 months. And before, I left for a month and a half, and people thought I moved away for good, and I was only gone for a month and a half. This one is 3 months out in LA.
Yeah.
Like where I did not come back for anything.
Yeah.
And it opened up my eyes. Like I was able to leave the New York ego behind. Like in terms of it's Michael Donovan, the photographer, Michael Donovan.
Man.
New York. And I had to I was able to cut that out, and I was able to see sunshine and happiness and joy. And it took a while to find some friends out there that I really started to connect with that were available. Yeah. Because finding people that are available in any new city is really hard.
Especially LA, where you have to drive everywhere.
LA or New York. I think any city, I think it's hard. But the driving, so over there it's driving. Over here, if you're gonna make friends,
got to go out usually.
You got to go out. You got to go to a bar. You got to go eat.
Yeah, you got to go
eat or drink.
Yeah, you got to go out.
Yeah. Although my friend True and I, we figured something out. We were waiting for a comedy show, and we ended up hanging out to kill time at a hotel lobby.
Oh my God. Hotel lobbies are incredible.
Yeah.
No, they're like you're like the perfect hotel lobby. First of all, so I was telling Alexis this, she was not keen on this story, but when we were in college, we were in Boston, like downtown Boston. That's where my college was. And my friend and I, who went to 2 different places, but we would go to hotel bars, and you can meet some fucking cool, weird, interesting people. Plus, it's usually just a generally fun, like cool environment to be in itself. That's cool. Yeah, no, they're the best.
They do make it. The hotels like are a special place, and so I learned I was like, oh, I want to just start hanging out with friends, because what you end up doing, this is the trick. Like the other day, so my friend True, she came to New York, and so we were like, oh, let's go do something. She's like, I want to see New York. So then we go get a drink, and then we kind of wandered around a little bit, and then we ended up at Cafe Reggio, and we put in earplugs so we couldn't hear anything, but we just people watched.
Cool.
Literally just watched
cool.
people with no noise. And then we ended up I was like, oh, you should see Union Square at this time, or Washington Square Park.
Yeah.
This closed. Like, you should see Union Square. It's closed. It's 3 a.m. or something, or 2 a.m. So we go to a coffee shop, or it's 1:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. So we go to a coffee shop, and they're closing. So then we walked all the way up to 40th.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And then we hung out at Times Square.
Of course. The
Yeah.
best place in New York. For anyone who's never been, that's the place you want to go. Times
Yeah.
Square.
But if somebody doesn't want to like drink all night, and you're with someone who doesn't want to drink, and
That
then
is actually a good, yeah.
what are you gonna do in the city?
Parks are closed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're kind of fucked.
Yeah.
Whereas in LA, that's what was like really got to me is in LA, we would go to a movie and then you're talking before the movie and you're like, shit, the movie starts in 5 minutes. And then suddenly the movie's over and you didn't even go in, you just hung out. And that quality of life of just hanging out with
Yeah.
your friends and chilling. Where
Yeah.
here we have to do a fucking podcast to hang out with people. You can't just like
It is true. It's harder to get people to do stuff. It is. It's true. There's a hustle here that is undeniable that you are almost sucked into, whether it's willingly or not. Yeah. No, it's definitely true. I mean, I feel it every time I come into the city. I love it, obviously. And I think people, hopefully, who live here love that too. But yeah, it's undeniable. Like that you get sucked into that. There's not a lot of chilling. There's
No.
not.
Chilling is off limits here.
I chilled as
people
much as
don't
one
have-
could in the city, and it
What's
was.
that?
I chilled as much as one could. You remember, I had an apartment. I smoked weed in there and did what I wanted to do
Yeah.
all day. That's probably about as chill as you can get in the city. Like otherwise, you have to go out to do almost
And
everything.
then what happens is that the people aren't as chill.
Well,
So-
inevitably, yeah.
So the lack of chillness here is like drives me nuts on a different level where, people are cranky and grumpy. And so I think from going into a place where life is beautiful, it's sunny and people are kind and, people are kind here in a different way. Like everybody always wants to point out like, yeah, New Yorkers are very generous, very kind,
Super.
sweet people, but it's a different level. Like people like carry stresses on their face. They carry
Without a doubt. It's
Yeah.
much more, it seems more stressful on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis here from my limited experience in LA. But maybe also because you're just jammed together. You know what I mean? Like that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like that's what blew my mind about LA is that it's just so, everything is far enough apart that like, you're not like, you may be walking down the street and see a bunch of people, but it's not like here you walk down the street, there's only a bunch of people. Like you can't
Yeah.
not see a lot of people.
And then we were talking on the phone the other day, you and I got off the phone and I was thinking of that, be the change you want to be. So I'm like, because I remember I was like by Union Square and I was like, hey, I'm looking around, I see 80 people. There's one fucker that's smiling.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And I've been to bars with friends and we were like stopped and we're like, look around at how many people are smiling. We'd see like one or two people in an entire bar where
I
everybody's
know,
supposed to be
drinking and happy, yeah.
Yeah, so then I was like, I'm gonna be the change I want to see, and I would like put a big smile on my face and be pleasant,
Yeah.
and that shit would last maybe a minute and a half. It's like harder than meditation.
In New York, to smile at everyone is probably one of the hardest
Just
challenges.
to keep a smile, even if you look straight ahead, throw some glasses on, it is harder than meditation.
You got to be really high. And most of the time, the high people don't even look that happy in the city. It's true. It's just not the vibe. It's not a smiley type of place. That's for
No.
sure. It's not a smiley. I always feel like I kind of have a smile, but
Same, but it goes away when you're walking and you've got the thoughts pop in.
My New York experience is very different now because I don't get to come in that much, and when I do come in, I jam pack like as
Yeah.
much as I possibly can in the shortest possible time frame. Whereas before, when I lived here, I was like, whatever, maybe I'll do that. I think I'll just stay home and order
Yeah.
some food. It's not a big deal. So I'm more appreciative of it now, but I also like recognize to support yourself, as an artist and a creative in a city like this. That's not a fun task for most people. Like no matter what level of, it's not like an easy thing to do, and
Yeah.
that'll weigh on people no matter what. Yeah, I mean, the conversation I just had with Sean and Cass over there, like we were talking about, I mean, it's becoming increasingly clear whether it's the creative class or families or people that it's just so hard to make ends meet to match people's lifestyles and expectations. Not that everyone has reasonable expectations, but it seems like reasonable expectations are so far out of reach as well.
You mean in New York?
In New York, but also just in the country. Like that's a broader symptom of the country. Like,
Oh my God, for the audience, what's about to happen is Noah's about to sell us on cryptocurrency.
no, I'm not. I'm not talking about cryptocurrency. Dude, do Jordan Peterson? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on Jordan Peterson?
I love Jordan.
Oh my God, I love this. Tell me why you love Jordan Peterson.
One, he's just out there doing his thing, and it's not necessarily popular.
It's very popular.
Well, it's popular within one group, but it's not popular with others. And I like that there's a lot of things he says that actually make sense. And there's two sides of him. There's the political side, and then there's the
This is what I
stand up for
hear.
yourself.
This is what I hear.
The stand up for yourself thing. And I actually, because I got into a heated discussion yesterday.
Yeah, this is why I brought him up.
And why did you hear the
No, I
discussion?
didn't.
'Cause
I
they were
brought him
like,
up because
what are you
he's
talking about?
there are two people where I think you can find strong opinions no matter how hard you might try to not have them. It's Jordan Peterson and Kanye West. Everyone has opinion on them, but Jordan Peterson is very fascinating to me because most people I know, including myself, think he's a fucking idiot. Just like not wholesale baby out with the bathwater, but like for the most part, like you're kind of a misogynist. But then I have people like you and other people who I really think are smart, discerning, reasonable people in some regards, who genuinely like him. So he's just like a fun person to bring up. Continue.
Oh yeah, no. Well, that was the thing is that I think that what happened with myself. So to back up the reason why I even like cared at all, because I remember when Duncan brought him on, Cora was telling me like, hey, you got to check out this guy Jordan, and she told me about what he was talking about, and it was about the pronouns, and I was like, just let them do their pronouns. Like I was like,
Yeah,
what's wrong with this guy? And then I was like, why is Duncan bringing this person on? What's wrong with Duncan now? And then I ended up seeing the Evergreen State College video.
yes.
And then that was like, whoa, that is extreme. And
It seems almost like a parody.
yeah, and I'm like, well, I do see that happening because I see that happening with myself when I explain stuff to some friends where I'm more centrist, where I'm not as liberal, like that I don't want to go like all the way off the deep end. And then that's when I found out about Jordan Peterson. And then I'm like, okay, well, this is somewhere that's like right of center. I'm not necessarily as right of center as he is, but I do need to listen to more viewpoints and people that are centrist. Yeah. When I listen to Kanye has been a fucking ahead constantly. And this new shit that he said, I haven't heard all of it, but some of the stuff I'm like, he's preaching fucking love.
The people have trouble with Kanye because he says Kanye is not intellectually smart or wise, and I don't think he would claim to be. I consider Kanye West a mystical type of person. He has channeled a level of energy that very few people throughout history have been able to maintain in people's collective consciousness, and I think that requires a special type of person. He also seems like the type of person where he has a thought and he thinks he's the first person to ever have the thought. And I find that endearing where a lot of people find that off-putting. Like,
yeah, I'm that guy a lot of the time too.
Yeah, and that's totally cool. And I've been that person, which is why probably I find it endearing. But I also think it's kind of like a kid. Like it's funny. Like it's not bad. Yeah. And I think if he's talking about good shit, that's not bad. But when he makes a comment like, the slavery thing was a choice, on some metaphysical level, maybe collectively, Kanye, yes, you have some point, but clearly you're misinformed and shouldn't be saying things like that with your platform.
Exactly, because
he went to TMZ.
I saw just a video of him like back off,
and I loved it, and I really thought it was like pretty good. We were just talking about this over there on the cast that it was good documentary filmmaking. It was like a real person confronting Kanye about ignorant comments he had made. He was just saying that slavery was a choice, and the first republic, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, just like dumb shit.
Was he saying that? Because the way that I understood it was he said 400 years of slavery and
sounds like a choice.
Yeah, and so
his point was that like they didn't collectively get their shit together to not be slaves, therefore it was a choice. This is a dumb thing to say.
Well, that's okay. So this is like the Jordan Peterson Kanye, where they both kind of, I think they're on their own same page. Where what they're kind of alluding to is
it's wrong though. It's a wrong.
Well, there's wrong and there's right and there's somewhere in between the two, right? And right. I'm not saying, I don't want it to come off as I'm saying, yeah, slavery is a choice, but there's a part where people have been oppressed and people have been victimized. I think we can all agree on that.
Yep.
That was like out of their control. And then individually, we have moments where you end up becoming, I'm not talking about slavery as in like slavery from like the 1700s. At one point you have to, like, as an individual right now, some people will see themselves as like a slave to the system.
Yes. I know what you're saying.
And so and a lot of people see themselves as a slave to the system. And there's other people that are saying the system works for me. And a friend said it in a different way. She said, we're talking about photographers, and she said, there's some photographers that work for photography, and there's others that have photography work for them.
Yeah.
So like lifestyle photographers tend to have it work for them. They just live their life, they document it, they resell everything. Whereas like a big fashion photographer is basically a slave to the machine.
Working for the photography industry. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it becomes a choice. And do you know what I mean? So
I do know what you're saying. Here's the problem with this. And this is where I think the Jordan Peterson stuff, I tend to be comfortable saying this is just incorrect, is that conveniently most of the positions that Jordan Peterson holds and Kanye's position holds are just, they're benefiting a very specific subset of the culture that is undeniable, even if you want to use his buzzword, Jordan Peterson's multivariate analysis, which truthfully, when he says that, it sounds good until you read some of the things he's referencing, and it doesn't really make that much sense, or it's a really small sample size, or it's something like the lobsters where it's like, yeah, hierarchical societies, it makes sense that if serotonin is secreted, that would lead to some hierarchical society where balance was achieved. However, we're not fucking lobsters.
Well, no, did you actually read that part?
I read him speak about it in a debate with someone.
Okay, so the explanation, because I read that part,
yes.
And his whole thing, for people that aren't aware,
he
has this, and it's chapter 1 of his book, 12 laws of
12
being
simple
a
rules.
shitty person anymore.
Yeah, 12 simple rules.
Yeah.
11 is hate women.
I'm like, hate anyone different than him. I stopped on like, he's very,
it gets real bad at 11. No, I don't know.
He's religious, and around 4 or 5 it was about like,
isn't there enforced monogamy somewhere now?
I don't know. It started getting into like Christian shit, and I was like, I'm done. But that's what I'm saying. I'm not like
I get it.
on.
I get it.
Just like the just people being strong about an opinion that they're not overtly terrible people. But okay, so here's the thing about the stand up like a lobster thing. The way he explains it is that, in the way that I perceived it, because it doesn't matter what he says, it's how you perceive it, right? So the perception that I got was that, he has this analogy of like 2 lobsters meet up, and they're gonna like have a duel essentially.
Yep.
And
who's gonna establish who's in charge?
Who's gonna have dominance? And so like if I whoop your ass,
I'm in charge.
I'm a 10. Yeah. Now you're a 5. Another lobster comes in there. I whoop its ass. I'm a 7, and I'm still a 10. This thing now, does it challenge you? And it creates this hierarchy, and it really comes down to like strengths, its ability to fight, or its ability to
whatever's
best.
Yeah.
Like they're able to make it in the market or whatever. So what his thing was like, stand up like a lobster. He's like, just stop. Like at one point, say you're a 3. You don't have to keep being a 3. Stand up for yourself. Get out there and go do work.
Right.
Quit being like, oh, I'm a 3. And actually, or being even worse, there's a lot of people that are like, I'm a 3, or I'm a 2, but they're actually like a 3. They have a leg up, and they don't realize that they have a leg up.
Yeah.
I've been that guy, and that's why it resonated with me, because as an adult male, and that's, it's more directed toward young men. But as a human being, there's an aspect of me I've been like, I've had good things, and I still felt like a lesser than, and it brought me down further and further and further. And so what I got out of it, the stand up like a lobster, I'm not getting into the serotonin shit because I don't believe that he's on point with this part.
Yeah.
But I do believe that I don't have to like oppress other people to stand up
and
fight people.
Right.
But the
which is somewhat embedded in his metaphor.
I think so, but I don't think that.
This is where he's crafty. This is where he hedges his positions by essentially saying, oh, well, I didn't say that. And like does a little cartoon Bugs Bunny.
You think that he's.
I think that if you look at what he said, first of all, one of the reasons that I comment on Jordan Peterson so much is he has popularized Jungian methods in a big way. People are using the words archetype, like, people are talking about collective unconscious and, projections and all of these things, which is cool. Jung never really got the love he deserved or what he did. But like I've never heard him once mention Marie-Louise von Franz. This is my big sticking point with Jordan Peterson. Not that he needs to specifically mention her, but it's convenient that he doesn't. This was Jung's main translator. She was a woman. She is a much better writer. She was a much better writer than Jung. She synthesized Jung's overly verbose and complicated words into things that people could understand. The problem with not bringing her up is it throws a fucking kink into his whole concept of how cosmology of how the world works, where someone like her shouldn't have been a great counterpart to Jung. She was the masculine, logical, analytical, basically bust up the whole
So why
conception
don't
of
you
his
bring him
reality.
on your show and talk to him about that?
So what's funny is 2.5 years ago at the Mindwave event, my friend who I met at that event said, you should check out this guy, Jordan Peterson. Because a lot of times people will hear me talk about him or I'll mention him and they'll be like, oh, well, you don't read this, you don't know anything. I was like, oh. So I watched a few of his videos. I sent him an email. This was like a month or a couple of months before all this shit started to hit the fan up in Canada with him. I didn't find anything particularly offensive. It seemed like something shifted, whether he knowingly knew it or not. And like, to me, it doesn't look all that complicated. What he's talking about, archetypes busting through people's psyches and dominating their lives, that's what's happening to him. He just doesn't recognize it. And it's very clear to people looking in who study this, have any conception of Jungian stuff. It's like a very predictable, he's got an inflamed ego. He has figured out a way to kind of subvert the system for personal gain, but also attention. And I think the danger with something like him is that his theories may be a bridge to more deeper levels of introspection that lead to what you're talking about, which is the kind of spiritual or psychic pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, which you have to have if you want to do anything in life. That is the truth.
Oh, yeah.
You have to have
a
that.
buddy summed it up the other day. He was talking to his landlord, and his landlord had said, he's like, what did he say? America is quicksand.
Quicksand.
Yeah, America's quicksand. And that's exactly true. And more so, I think, in cities like New York and LA.
For sure.
Where you are just constantly, you have to pull yourself up constantly.
And I think that's a cultural mechanism that I think it's easy to point at and say that, yes, take personal responsibility. The reason I think he gets a lot of backlash from communities that are kind of marginalized or just aren't white men, is because that's not really how shit works. Like, I've known enough people from enough backgrounds that, like, that's not how the world doesn't work the way that we experience the world as white men. Our bad luck, and people don't want to hear this shit, is bad luck, and it sucks and it's suffering, and it doesn't mean it's any lesser or greater, but we're not in as bad a position as some people who don't look like us or don't have, even if we're poor white men, we're still at a disadvantage relative to other people. Now, if you're poor, if you're in a lower economic stratum, or you're in a regular kind of middle management job, I get why that shit resonates. To me, I think it's just a much more kind of filtered and filtered out version of some of the more meaty stuff, which is like, investigate what the fuck is really going on with yourself. Don't take my word for it. I don't have simple rules. If there were 12 simple rules, trust me when I say Jordan Peterson wouldn't have been the first person to come up with them. You know what I mean? Like, he's smart, but he's not the smartest person who's ever lived. Like, I don't view some of his stances as culturally helpful, I guess. I think this is going to be...
I think that it's...
it's helping
helpful.
people. It is helping people. I mean...
I think a lot of people that are on the fence with their life, like, I had this, like, heated conversation with some friends yesterday because they were like, you're not looking at the big picture. And I'm like, I am looking at the goddamn big picture. Like, I am looking at the goddamn big picture. And if, the part of, like, everybody wanting equality versus fairness, and I believe that it's really, it comes down to fairness more than equality. And I was on a job, and I was somehow it came up about people missing arms,
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, they're not equal to us, as a joke, not like in a mean way, but like to kind of just like play with the room a little bit. And they were disgusted with me. I was like, no, really, like, let me point this out. We have arms and they don't. That isn't the same as...
Yeah, it's not equal.
It is not equal. Like an apple is not an orange. They are not equal. They are still fruit. They're still great. They're still amazing. But we have to be fair rather than saying, oh, we're equal, because we're not, because we need to help them more. Yeah. Like, in different areas, we need to help them get something off the shelf. To be like, well, we're equal. No, because they also see the world in a way that we don't, which I think is it creates an inequality, an imbalance. So I have respect for recognizing the differences of us rather than saying like we're all born equal. When it's like, no, actually, I kind of like that we're not all born equal, that we're all born differently. But like what I have as an advantage, and I've said this since the beginning of my podcast, what I have as an advantage, I would love to be able to come to you and say, hey, you have this and I don't, and I have this and you don't. Can we trade?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
That's fairness. That's not equality. That's fairness.
So, I mean, that's
kind-heartedness, and
there's two ways to do this, right? There's two ways to look at fairness, and I'm only going to bring up cryptocurrency for the mechanism.
Oh my god!
No, only
oh,
please. My audience hates it enough. They hate it enough. I'm only going to bring it up for the mechanism regarding trust. So, fairness implies some level of trust in exchange. Right? I have to trust that you are. I'm not shilling cryptocurrency. I just want to show you that there's two ways to do it. One is I can trust you based on our experiences that you're not someone who's going to rip me off, and you can trust the same if we're doing an exchange. The other way is to guarantee that we don't have to trust each other because it's independently verified by a group of other people at the same time. So those are two unique paths towards. One is trustless. There's literally no trust involved. We don't have to trust each other, so we have 100% confidence. One is 100% trust, where we've gotten to know each other and we trust each other. I don't think one is more valid than the other, but I think in certain instances, one is more applicable and valid than the other. And I don't know that when we're dealing with like people, fairness and equality are terms that are well defined enough that when Jordan Peterson says things aren't equal, he's also dog whistling to people that like, oh, there's no such thing as white privilege. Well, that's ridiculous.
See, that's the thing. Like, I don't want to get into that because that.
But you have to, with some regard, if you.
I'm not, but the dialogue that like I'm focused on has less to do with that, because there's always going to be that. There's always somebody who does feel superior in different ways. Regardless, there's always somebody that's playing the superior card, and there's always someone who's playing the victim. I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for my audience. What I want to do and the people I'm around is I want to focus on like how could we become stronger as a group. And my business model is I want to have it equal. Like I want it to be fair, like the whole pay structure. And we have myself and two people now on my team, right? And do you know how hard this is? This is like
impossible almost.
It's one of the fucking hardest things. We have discussions all the time. What's really funny too is that like we'll do a job and we'll I'll get a message from Taylor saying like, I think you should get paid more. And I'm like, no, because I want to have it as like this equal thing. And she's like, no, I really don't think this is fair. It has nothing to do about equality or anything like that. It comes down to fairness. And then we were like, well, how do we wage fairness? And they were like, well, how is it effort putting in? Is it results? Is that? So I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. And your analogy that you used of like, there's two ways, either I trust you or we have this other way. At the end of the day, it's still all very ambiguous. Like trust is ambiguous because you have to trust it. You have to look at the person eye to eye and be like, is this really a fair thing? Like I'm working on a gallery show, right? And, a printer came to me and kind of like started the whole thing, and his rates were cheaper than my previous rates. And that's why I went to this printer, because it was similar quality or, just
capitalist asshole.
What's that?
Because you're a capitalist asshole.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, there's an element of it because, when I went to meet with him, he wanted me to pay wholesale for the prints, or retail for the prints. And then he wanted 30% of the profits, and he wanted me to like promote him.
What?
Exactly. So then I was like, this seems off. So then I went and I started looking at other printers, and I found like this one in Brooklyn that I'm meeting with tomorrow where his rates are half and he doesn't give a shit about this other stuff. So I don't know. I think that like it's a constant negotiation because someone's always going to try to rip you off, and someone's always going to
here's the thing. It seems like someone's always trying to rip you off, but obviously there are people like you. I try to be one of these people who make sure things are fair. And I think that's also born out of a sense that some things aren't fair that could be fair. There are some things in life that people might not deem as fair. Maybe it's not fair that everyone dies.
Dude, I remember my mom saying to me when I was a kid, she says, Michael, life is not fair. And I'm like, that is the meanest thing you can say.
I wouldn't say that to my kid.
I was like 7.
Yeah, I wouldn't say. I mean, I understand the logic behind it, and it could be construed as maybe this is a comforting thing to say, like it's just get used to it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think that life is unfair, but I think that doesn't mean that there are unfair things, that unfair things don't happen in life. That is clear, right? But I think overall, like, there is a sense of order, no matter how chaotic things are, that shit is happening for a reason. This is my underlying protocol in life. It feels like that to me. I'm not saying this is the way it is. So fairness, again, yes, it's nebulous, but there are clear examples in society where people have less advantages than others, and it's not an equality thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's not fair. That's unfair, and we can see it.
And the whole game is that we want to make things fair.
Yes.
You know, like
yes.
I mean, I'm struggling with this. And just like I've been struggling with it because I've been trying to build my business off of this.
Yeah, man.
And there are, there's been people that have reached out to me that have much more experience, that want to like work with me. And I'm like, I'm working with the people that I'm working with and I love them. And I'm not going to do this. And there's like am I shooting myself because am I not being fair to myself because I can have someone with 6 times the experience, all this stupid shit. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, we all have to, I don't know, man. It's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm saying like I'm coming off as mean or something like that.
You're not coming off as
Or
mean.
that
These are normal questions, whether it's building a business or relationships or career paths or just life decisions. Like, these are things that people have to weigh against each other. And
I think as somebody who's like promoting, like really not even just promoting it, talking it, but it's like I'm walking the fucking walk.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing the best I can. And we get into like this team has been like an incredible experience for me because we'll be doing this hairstylist is like, hey Michael, like I did some stuff like this when I was in LA. He's out here and he's like, I made these wigs, and he made them out of leather.
Cool.
And then we're like, okay, cool. Like when I get back to town, we'll shoot these. And then we showed somebody on my team, and then she's like, well, you need to get an African American model. Or
oh yeah, you told me about this.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, these guys are French. Like I get it, but it's like it's this whole ordeal, and I just like I want to, like I'm trying to, but I'm also dealing with the politics of a system that's like bigger than me, and I'm trying to be fair, and then like I bring it up to people, and they're like, well, why would we now? It's the whole thing. I don't even want this podcast released now because because I'm in the middle of like all of this stuff where it's like I agree this should be a person of color. I also agree that if we do that, it starts to look like you're just becoming tribal, or you're doing this thing.
Yeah.
And everybody has a viewpoint on different sides, and you're like, well, what is the fair way? What is the right way?
Well, that's where I think the inner sense of doing what you think is right, based not on just your ego, but your life experience and intuitively what feels correct, is about as good as you can do. And sometimes it also, like, truthfully, man, like, listen, there have been times where what felt like the right thing to do was very much the wrong thing to do. And I've had to acknowledge that in several instances. Like, if you've ever made a very shitty decision, at one point you probably thought, this is a really good decision. So to be able to acknowledge that and look at different areas of your life that can be tweaked is not an easy process. And unfortunately, most people don't have answers for you that will solve any specific...
there are no answers.
No, it's for you to figure out and try different things. And like, you're certainly not coming off as mean or...
No, I think I just feel bad for the people that I like, all the people around me that I work with, because I haven't been doing podcasts because it's like, I don't want to, like I was on there's another project where we brought in somebody, and we did the shoot for a client, and the client then brought it to their friend, and it was like so critical about the model, and it had something to do with you can tell by looking at a portion of the there was like an important. See, I have to dance around this shit because I don't want to like call anybody out, but you can tell that person didn't have a lot of money,
right?
Because they weren't moisturizing their skin well.
Okay.
And there's no way to Photoshop this any different, and so they're trying to sell like very expensive things on somebody who part of their body is in poverty.
Yeah.
And their friend is like, well, you fucked that one up to the person. And so now I look like an ass because we were trying to get somebody. We were trying to be progressive. But it's like the friend of the client is correct because it's like they're not they don't give a shit about being progressive. They just want to like, you know, do you know what I mean? Like it's so tricky. I think it's like tricky because now I'm working more and more with the commercial world, and with the commercial world, it's like I'm doing a shoot like a quote unquote sexy shoot, right? And then the girl has like stretch marks, and then it's like, well, do we show that and promote that? Well, I'm not going to be able to make money off that because I'm not going to have clients that are like people like, no, clients want that. They don't want that. You don't go to Times Square and you don't see people like running toward models with stretch marks. It's, you know what I mean? So it's like, if you want to be progressive and be fair, you really have to do it in the art world. But even in the art world, very few people want these things on their wall. You know, so it's like you have to. Then you do it for yourself, but it's like, okay, well, I don't know if this makes sense.
It does make sense. I know exactly. I know, but I know what you're saying. You're trying
a lot harder.
This is truthfully something since I've known you, you've been dealing with though, which is this push and pull, and I think this is just not uncommon for people who are creative and artistic
and progressive and trying to be fair.
Well, and also trying to make a business out of it and make a living out of it.
Yeah.
That's where the friction comes from. I don't have any good answers. What
no
I can
one will have good answers.
No, and I don't think there will be a satisfactory answer from someone else. But it does sound like, you know, you just got to do what you think is right. I think is probably.
But you know what ends up happening? So I agree. What happens is that you're gonna, and I guess this is like where I just have to accept this part. You're going to get heat no matter what you do or say.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to get heat.
But do you care about that so much?
People say, do you care about that? But when you experience heat.
I've experienced heat.
When you're experiencing heat where people are saying that you're sexist, that you're sizist, that you're racist, that you're like all of these things because people don't see this in this one photo and they don't see this. Like when I went down to Peru or to Ecuador and I went with a friend and we went to this like this bath or this spa or lagoon, and it's like a volcanic lagoon, and so they have you put black tar or what do you call it? It's
mud
on your body. And so a friend put that on her face, and I was like, you know, posting on Instagram images from it, and it's because you're putting black mud on your face or volcanic mud on your face. And
nah, you can't worry. You can't worry about that, man.
No, somebody comes after me, man. And they start doing blackface right now.
That's
I can't believe you do this, and then they're bringing their friends in on it.
That's their thing.
When you have people that are like, but it's so like when you say that, but imagine if somebody went to you.
People comment. Listen,
I'm getting a lot more.
You have a way more exposure than me. But what I'm telling you is this: if you're doing what you're doing, you need to expect that. And like seriously though, like, and I know people have trouble with this, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't. What I'm saying is that you legitimately cannot be concerned with that. If the reason you should be concerned with it is if it's like you did it for that reason.
Yeah.
That's the only time you should be doing. Like it dawned on me, like I remember like a few weeks ago, because I've been basically MIA from most of my friend relationships because I've just been taking care of my kid for the past 6 months. And like, I'm like, you know what? I bet a lot of people think I'm an asshole right now. Like, cause they've reached out and I haven't gotten back to them ever. And like, I bet people think I'm an asshole. I'm like, am I an asshole? I'm like, nope. I've just been really busy. It's like, should I be upset that people think I'm an asshole? I'm like, well, it's not great, but like, I can't worry about that shit. And like, that's really like, if you're doing things from a place that you know are innocent and not bad, like you can take feedback and you can be like, well, next time I'm in mud, maybe I won't do it. And that sucks. But like,
no, that's the thing is that I get what you're saying.
It doesn't matter. It's not worth it. You're not a mud-faced photographer.
No, but I was doing my travel photography.
That's fine.
And the fact
that's
that like,
cool.
it's like, well, don't show this part of your travel.
You show whatever you want, man.
I know, but it's like, I think the problem is that it's just that everybody's outraged. And this goes back into that part that I do like about Jordan is that, and a handful of others say the same thing. It's like, make your own goddamn bed. Quit going out there and try to save the goddamn world. Quit
I agree
trying to
with
fix
this.
everything. Make your own goddamn bed.
I know.
And that's where it was like resonating with me. It's that it's telling people like this like crazed America
But that can be callous if applied too harshly. That's the thing.
It can be, but there is an element where it's like, guys, make your own fucking bed. Quit jumping on and trying to find this girl has stretch marks. That's gross. This girl doesn't. That's terrible. This girl is this. This guy is this. This is this. There's so many, like, people all want to be represented in your work.
Some people
as well.
also just don't. Most people, I think you would find, don't really mind stretch marks or any physical.
Yeah, like I like a girl.
Yeah,
has
like
stretch
no one
marks,
really
like, on her
cares.
ass,
Exactly.
Like on her hips. It's like beautiful.
No one really
everybody
cares.
likes
But
that.
marketing, that's not what the ideal is in this culture. So I think you're bound to experience that type of friction in your thing, but you can't let that shit get to you. You're making the conscious decision to work in an industry that now the evolution of it is that you're going to be exposed to that type of criticism.
Well, because here's the thing: is that, like, I'm making money off of art.
Yes.
And so I'm working with some other friends on this project. I don't know if I told you about this one. I can't get into too many details, but a buddy bought a business from another friend, and it involves a lot of artists. And
Cool.
so, he's like, what do I do with this brand and this package? And we're working on this idea that I have. And as an artist, you have four ways that you can go. Okay. Number one is you become a hobbyist and you just do it for fun. Number two, you're counterculture and you're doing it to, like, tell the world to fuck off. Number three, you become a fine artist and you go in the gallery world and you sell it that way. Or number five, you go into commercial art.
You're four.
Or four, yeah. Four, you go into commercial work. So you go commercial work, you do mass appeal, or then you do gallery, which is niche appeal.
Yes.
And then you do hobbyist, which is nobody, and then the others, like, fuck everybody. You're really doing it just for yourself. And so we're trying to create a pathway for people to go in each of those, and also for all of them to work together and collect as a group. And
I think I'm in the fuck off category.
yeah, and I was in the fuck off category, but it's like, then you got to go find another job. So if you want to make money while making art, it's like, well, then you're going to have to go find something else. I was like, well, I'm good at photography and I'm good at art. I'm good at art direction. I'm good at ideas. So this makes sense that I'd still work in this field. So as I'm, I think some people can balance between all of them. I think that, but you tend to be stronger in certain areas. For me, it's going to be fine art and commercial. And I'm just learning that balance right now, because I know that it's happening. It's happening, and that's why the clients are coming to me more now, is because they want me to do what I do.
So why do you think you were depressed?
I was depressed because I came back and I was living in someone else's energy, and that dude would.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. I mean, I think it's good that you recognize that, because I'm not someone who I would say is prone to depression. I can count the times I've been depressed on one hand easily. It's been that infrequent.
That's not fair. You need to like balance that out, and you need to do a lot more podcasts with depressed people while they're depressed. You need to go.
Oh, I am not unfamiliar.
I'm fucking with you.
I'm just saying, like, I know you're fucking with me. I'm just saying, like, depression is a serious topic for a lot of people, because I think the few times I have been depressed, it is what you described. It's something that is all encompassing to varying degrees, depending on how deep you are in it. But that's not something to be taken lightly in that sense. But it is important to be able to make the distinction between whether it's your depression or you're just picking up on a bad situation, whether it's a roommate, a place, a situation, a relationship. That's super important, because I think that,
for me, like, I've recognized that the holidays is, like, a really tough time for me. I go through, like, massive depression. My birthday is the big kickoff of it, like planning before. So already, like,
when is your birthday?
December 8th. So already I'm making plans to prepare for it, so that I'm not.
Why do you not like your birthday?
It's not that I don't like my birthday.
Well, you're depressed on it. So
it's a season.
No, December.
I mean, my family, my mom's birthday is November 11th, and then my uncle's was, like, somewhere toward the end of November. Then it's mine, December 8th.
11/11.
Then my dad's is December 31st.
Oh wow, you're all jammed
my
in
grandma's
there.
is January 7th. My sister's January 8th.
Yeah, the whole winter wonderland.
And it's just, and then Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's,
Ooh-wee.
Valentine's. It's this big package of
drama.
Yeah, Halloween is like the kickoff of the whole thing. So the birthday
I
is,
get
right
it.
in the middle of this.
I get it.
Of the storm, and it's like a long winter. You just know that you're going to be in, like, for a long winter. You gotta brace yourself.
Yeah,
and that's
man.
when it's like you start getting a little dizzy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man.
Well, this one was more recent though. The weather's been nice.
Weather's shit compared to LA, man.
Well, duh, compared to LA. LA is like a weird nexus of non-real weather. It doesn't.
So nice.
It is nice. I remember going there and people were complaining it was cold. I'm like, it's 60 something degrees.
I was
like,
walking around in
fuck.
shorts.
Yeah.
You know, in Spokane in the winter. You know, like it was snowing. I was wearing shorts. I was like, I'm warm. I was fine. Like
Well,
straight up, fucking Wim Hof was like giving me thumbs up. Like I was like on it, right? I come back to New York. It's fucking icy. It's cold. I'm walking around in shorts. I get out to LA. And I swear to God, and I was doing this for like, I would wear shorts every single day. Friends were making fun of me. They were like, "What are you gonna do? You gonna move to LA and
You're
start
a
wearing
shorts
pants?"
guy, yeah.
I got to LA within 2 days. I had to wear pants. It was too cold.
It's the psychic energy of the people thinking that it's cold. And
There's something else though. It's like light. Like photographers, we all talk about light in different cities.
yeah.
So like you talk to any photographer, they'll go to a city and they'll be like, and even within a neighborhood, they're like, the light's different here. And we'll talk about like texture and quality of light. And it's just hitting you. Like if you stand in a different city, a different part of the
I
city,
believe it.
like in Venice, it's completely different. In Venice, Santa Monica, Marina del Rey, completely different than downtown or Silver Lake. So, you know, and the light here versus in Chicago, completely different.
It's interesting.
So I think that there's something to do with, there are like atmospheric energy things that we haven't figured out how to measure yet.
Oh, for sure. I would.
That are, because why would I suddenly get cold in LA when I'm totally fine everywhere else in like icy, frigid temperatures?
I think
I can't say it's because of the people.
it could be though. It could be the collective consciousness of that particular
People
area.
were rejecting me. No, but when we say the
I'm not
collective
saying you're
unconscious,
immediate.
how many people are like looking at me on the train like, what the fuck are you doing, asshole?
I'm
You're
not
wearing shorts.
saying the dozens of people looking at you. I'm saying the millions of people being like, it's chilly. That having an influence on you. That
You don't think they were doing that over there? They were like, it's freezing.
What do you mean?
When I was in New York, they were all like,
No,
it's
I'm not.
freezing.
But I'm not saying related to you. I'm saying the environment in general.
Oh, you're saying that they're
You
like,
can buck a trend as an individual.
Yeah.
That is easy to do. But to succumb to the swarms or hive minds thing is also, you know, that could have an influence.
So
is what
maybe
I'm saying.
that, maybe that's like a portion of the. I get what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. Because I think that shit has more to do with it.
That's
than-
containing part of the ether, or maybe it's like,
Yeah.
because like, you know, when I was talking to a friend the other day, I don't know if I talked about this on the podcast or not, but it's like, you know, when you see a storm rolling in, it's like immediately, well, here comes the bad thoughts.
Oh,
like,
really?
well,
I
a lot of
love
people get-
storms.
People get like sad and depressed when
really
it starts getting cold and rainy, and
cold and rainy is good, but I love summer storms. This is like
summer
my
storms are
favorite.
great. But
So
if you know
awesome.
that it's like already chilly and there's a storm coming,
Oh yeah,
it's gonna
not
rain
fun.
in New York. You have to like, it's gonna be like wet.
Yeah.
People are gonna like,
Yes.
they're gonna be, so people will get depressed. So
Yes.
it's like, here comes the bad thoughts. Like no one ever says, they say, here comes the storm. No one says, here comes the bad thoughts, because that's real. So I'm almost wondering if, since we don't quite understand, like we don't understand a lot about our air. We really don't. We don't understand like a lot of this. So what if this is containing thoughts? What if this is containing feelings?
I would think it would be weird if it didn't. I
Yeah.
would think that if we just assume, knowing, I know it sounds crackpot, but we know that we can shoot invisible beams of energy out from places and get to other places. We all have phones and shit now that do that. I don't think it's that crazy that we would have other things embedded, whether informational or organic or otherwise, ethereal, that existing would be some weird fucking thing. It makes a lot of sense to me. So anything else you want to talk about?
No, I mean, you're thinking, what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about crypto now?
No, I don't want to talk about crypto.
I
because
don't want you to talk about crypto. I want you to shut up about crypto, and I want you to sit down with me next to me on a computer and show me how to actually
I can do
it.
that. I don't have my computer with me, but I can show you how to do that.
Yeah,
It's
like that's the thing that I'm like, I don't give a shit. You can talk all you want. It's amazing. It's great. Oh, look at this.
I was just telling my
I'm
sister.
Noah Lampert. I'm crypto.
Yeah,
You
I
need to
love
wear
it.
like you should change your name to Crypto Man.
I did. I rebranded myself. I have noahlampert.com/guru crypto
Do you really?
no, Michael.
I feel like you would, because
Here's the thing. Here's what you need to understand about my positioning as a crypto person who's helping people. First of all, I still put out free shit about this every single week, at least a few times, not because I'm trying to drum up some weird like salesman business thing, because when you buy your Bitcoin, when I sit down with you and you get it and you just forget about it for a year or two and then come back to it and you're like, oh shit, thanks, Noah. That's what I'm doing it for. I'm not doing it to enrich myself or look like the smart guy.
I get it. That's totally fine. You know what was driving me nuts is that you were like you jumped in. I did a podcast with Yoshino that I can't run. Second podcast with Yoshino I can't run. But I was like, yeah. Like at the time I was like, what's going on with Noah? Is he ever gonna snap out of this thing or what? He's alienating everybody.
I know.
But the part was
that's it.
because I asked you, how do I set this up? And you were like,
go to the server.
You made it so complicated.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Relative to how complicated this shit is to figure out on your own, I made it so easy. I was like, here's let me explain to you why I did what I did. I really want to explain this because it's important and I think it's worthwhile. And if you have an understanding, you would understand why I did it. Okay. The reason I directed all of my close personal friends, as well as people who would ask me about it, to the server is it was a
Discord server.
Discord server is because it was a public knowledge base. So if you had a question like, "What do I do?"
question in there, and you were like, "Ask this in a different channel."
Yeah, in the crypto question says because for this very reason, because it's a repository of questions now. So when someone new joins, I can say, "Hey, go through this. There's all these questions that you will probably have that you can see."
See, you didn't even have this shit. You were just like, hey,
I did.
Man, okay, what you need to do is you take your money and put it over here, and you need to get Bittrex, or you need to get some.
Yes,
some
you remember Bittrex.
And here's what I say. If someone asks how to get Bitcoin, I say this. I say, Coinbase.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's all I say. But then you're like, but you got to like lock it up in a locker,
first of all,
and you have to like make sure that you get it.
No. Listen,
you need a higher.
No. What I was saying is
cryptographer.
We were talking about it at the end of December, early January. What I was telling you to do is by
November.
Was it November? Okay, it was November.
December.
Okay, listen.
Is it right after
you
Bitcoin
fucking doofus? If you would have just tolerated my bullshit and did exactly what I did, you would have done very well.
No, I did. What I did is I dumped the money into Coinbase, and then I lost a bunch of money.
Because you didn't do what I told you to do, you fucking idiot. This is my whole point. I was trying to legitimately help my friends and family in a period where I'm like, holy shit, this is literally making stupid amounts of money for so many people. If I can just get 10% of people I know to do this, not that I'm going to benefit from it.
It's a pyramid scheme.
It's not a pyramid scheme.
10 of my friends.
No, it's not a pyramid scheme.
To do this thing.
No.
They're going to make so much money with it.
I knew that
they just need to get 10 of their friends.
I knew that if people I knew bought something that I knew was going to go up for a reason based on fundamentals, not based on pyramid scheme, that this would be a wise thing for anyone who had the ability to do that to do. So that kicked off the whole thing.
How many of your 10 friends did it?
At the end, I probably have close personal friends or family who heeded my advice, probably like 15, 20, like a good amount, like a pretty good amount.
Damn, you get good on your pyramid scheme.
What
was that company called?
What?
Amway.
No. It's
Lampway.
So the thing is that it's obviously not a pyramid scheme. Everyone knows that. I've spoken about it enough. But the point is that it's very rare that we have opportunities to get such an asymmetric bet on something in life that really is backed by more than the idea that it maybe is fake money or real money. And if people are in a position where they're like, I could put $50, $100 into this thing and just say bye-bye to it. Like, oh my God, I'm never going to see that again. That potentially can make an impact in their lives in the future. I don't know of anything else like that. There's no savings account that you're going to put your money into today that you're going to wake up in 5 years.
No, there is something.
What?
It's called your education.
Yeah, your education. Exactly. Good college debt, student debt. That's the way to go. So my point is this related to the cryptocurrency and all of this, now that I've thoroughly annoyed everyone. It's truth. No, and you're not the only one, because I recognize I put something up on Facebook about my consulting services once, and I got really harsh feedback from someone I didn't even know. I'm like, how are you on my Facebook? I don't know who you are. And luckily,
fuck that person.
Well, fuck that person, right? Yeah. I didn't respond.
That person's
at
not
first.
Me, so it doesn't matter what they say.
Right, but what I'm saying is I had people who had joined the server, done other things. They immediately came to my defense and were like, "Hey, like, you ding dong, like, if you're accusing him of being a huckster, like, you should at least know what he's doing. Like, I'm in there. It's not a scam. Like, this shit is going well because this is what he's doing." And the dude was trying to like cling to something that he wasn't being an asshole. And it's like, one of the things that the crypto thing got me is like, that's what I was talking about. Like when people have criticisms or I'm alienating people at this point, I don't give a shit really about that because
that's a different kind of thing to not give a shit about.
Not really. That's my reputation. That's my reputation.
No, but being called an ist, some kind of, and having an ism because of that's different than being like, oh,
I hear
you're
you,
annoying.
but
You're turning me off
in
because
one
you
regard
won't
it
shut
is,
up
but
crypto.
in the other regard is that it's your character. It's how you view yourself being perceived by other people and knowing who you are as a person. So in that way, it's not like, I am sure there are plenty of people. I mean, I know there are some people hit me up. They're like, you've turned a corner. You're now talking about shit that's unimportant. I don't care. And if I really like thought about it and I thought I was doing something wrong, that would bother me. And I was just like, okay, that's fine. Like, that's cool. That's just like your opinion, man. So I don't know. I mean, the crypto stuff to me is something that is going to change a lot of people's lives, and it already has.
You know who's going to make a shit ton of money? It's going to be the person that makes something that is one step above Coinbase in terms of usability.
Just reminded me about something. See
you
if it
doing that
paid
right
off. Well, there's the 0x protocol.
Nerd.
That is a decentralized exchange that Coinbase, there's high rumors that they're involved with 0x to run some type of DEX, a decentralized exchange, basically, rather than having all of the funds or something go through one thing, we go through each other, like kind of like a Napster-ish type of protocol.
Okay.
Anyway.
You get what I'm saying, though. Maybe that's what you're talking about.
Yeah,
It just
there's a
needs to
lot
be-
of those things out there, man. Like, that's why it's so interesting in this space. Like,
I went to one and I'm like, and it was like all in Chinese, and it was like one that you told me to go to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the
Binance probably.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is going on here.
I know.
And the numbers were insane. It's like, and then you're like, oh, it's so simple. And I'm like looking at videos on how to do this, and it's like,
Don't look
dude,
at
I don't
video.
have time to learn this shit.
Yeah.
You have to buy like 0.00002 Bitcoin.
I'll sit
to
down
trade
with
for
you.
0.0000397 Ethereum 12 units. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
So here's the
shit,
thing.
man?
Let me give you a tip. Let me give you this tip.
Just the tip.
If you do just the tip here, if you do things magnitude of 2 order above what your threshold is in this space, you have a better chance than not of doing well. Most people do what you did when they see that shit and they're like, what the fuck is this? I don't care. If you don't have to be the person who takes the time to figure it out. In this particular space, taking time or asking someone who knows what's going on.
Dude, I asked a buddy, I said, hey, what'd I say? I said, hey, I'm gonna I have some questions. Maybe I can come visit you.
Yes.
And the friend was like, yeah. And then I got busy. I was like, hey, I could do a call. And then the person was like,
Was
too
that
busy.
me?
That was you, asshole.
Okay.
Oh, you can come all the way up here and
Here's
I'll show
the thing.
you. Oh, let's do a call.
Here's the thing.
Nah, I'm busy.
Here's
you
the thing.
fucker.
I was taking care of my son.
And the call would
full
be easier.
time.
What am I gonna do?
When am I supposed to call?
Huh?
You're gonna feel bad in
Same
a little
time
bit.
when you would have come up there.
No, dude.
Such an asshole.
Please. My point is, I'm willing to help anyone who has any
Unless
questions.
it's on a call. You have to go drive all the way to
No, I did lots of calls with people. I just thought it'd be cool if you came and hang out because you could get more out of the experience.
Yeah,
My
whatever,
friend,
dude.
one of my best friends in the world, he'll attest to this fact. I said the same shit to him. He got mad at me for a month and a half. Got offended similarly to you. Came up there and was like, "Oh yeah, I see why I had to come up here." It's like, "Oh, I get it." I get it. I was like, if I would have done it the other way, it would have been wasting both of our time. True story. With that, let's wrap this up, buddy. What is your favorite color?
Are you doing this?
Yes.
My favorite color is Noah.
What's your favorite number?
Noah.
Let's see. What is your favorite animal?
Remember when your podcast you had 10 questions or something?
3, and they're the same.
No.
3.
No. When you first started it,
Oh
and
yeah.
you had questions written out for me, and I felt like I was in a fucking cage.
Did I?
Yeah, remember? And I gave you shit about
No,
it.
I didn't have questions
And I
written
was
out.
annoyed
That's
on your
that's not
podcast.
true. I remember you being annoyed, but I didn't have questions.
No, you had questions. Go
No,
back
I
and listen
didn't.
to it.
No, you thought I did. I was just asking you questions, and you felt it was an interview. That's what I remember specifically. I didn't
No,
have
you
questions
had
written out.
to
No,
have
I didn't.
written down.
I didn't have. I'm just really good at asking questions. It seems like I wrote them
you
in
were really
advance.
bad at it at the time. You're better now. Your conversation. I'll give you this. I give you shit all the time. You are much better. Like you used to dominate conversations.
I know.
To a point of
Annoyingness. I know.
And you used to only up to an hour ago you'd only talk about crypto.
People really got upset about that. Fuck, I don't care. It's fucking cool and it's smart and it's going to change people's lives for the better if you know what you're doing. It's worth it. Fuck it. I don't care. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not going to turn this into a cryptocurrency podcast, but although I will say there's a culture.
You brought Ethan Nickturn on and you're like,
no shit. Those are great. Okay, first of all, that conversation was less about crypto. It was more about what do you do? And
Because
I'm sure
you're
a lot of
ignoring your
people can.
child.
No, that's not what was happening.
That's what you said.
Basically, but I was like, what do you do in a situation where you know you have potentially a limited opportunity to change, the financial outlook of related
And
to your
all you have to do,
responsibilities?
Ethan, is sign up on this one.
Yeah, use my referral link so I get a percentage of what you do. No, like that, and I think that was a valuable question. Listen, I
didn't plan on coming on here just to bust your balls.
It just always turns out that way. It's pretty easy. I am easy to take the piss out of. All right, you answered the question. What's a practical tip that's helped you in your life that you can share with people?
Being friends with Noah.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
I'll agree with that one. You've been a good friend.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on mine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Yeah.
It's whatever.
Yeah. No, we're both gonna release this one.
Thanks for listening, people.
This is Walking Synchro Home. Michael Noah Ben. Bye bye.
Crypto.com.
Thank you for listening to that episode. A longie, but a goodie. You can also, Michael is releasing this on his own podcast, Walking Home, which is on the MindPod network. I haven't done that in a long time. So if you want to listen to that, he probably has different stuff to say at the beginning, not related to spiritual materialism and spiritual politics. So maybe go check that out. Go check out Michael at studiodonovan.com. He's got a ton of shit always going on. His art is cool. Go check it out. All right, that's it for this week. I am going to the beach next week, but I will be doing podcasts there because it's important that I put out these podcasts, not just for you guys or you listening, you listening, the person listening. I'm talking to you. It's not just important that I put out podcasts for you. It's important for me too. So I'm going to do that. So thank you for listening. A reminder, patron, CryptoSync, blah, 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 whatever. I will see you next week.